Hi all and welcome back. Somehow it's already been a few months since we posted the Gemünder viola, so it looks like we're way overdue for another violin. So today we're going to look at the 1709 Viotti Stradivari. We've already shown you two Strads on this channel, the 1713 and the 1722 Elman, so why keep going back to look at the Strads? Personally, I find it interesting to look at several examples of one maker's work. And this way you can begin to form your own opinions. For myself, I prefer the 1713 to the Elman, but that opinion could easily change with just a little more time spent with each instrument. So what we're looking at here is an even earlier instrument of Stradivari's, a 1709, the Viotti. Its first owner was said to have been Giovanni Battista Viotti, the great Italian violinist. So this is immediately confusing because if you start to look back at the records, you'll notice there are two 1709 Strads, both owned by Viotti. This one is known as either the Marie-Hall Stradivarius or the Viotti Stradivarius, depending on who you ask and which name is going to lend more weight, Hall or Viotti. Officially, it should be known as the Viotti-ex-Hall. Marie-Hall is scarcely known anymore other than to those who have really dug deep into violin history. But she's a wonderful English violinist from the early to mid 1900s who studied with Elgar, Sevcik, and get this, the Lark Ascending by Vaughan Williams is dedicated to her. So her name rung a bell in my distant memory since that piece is one of my favorites. The point that I'm getting at is this. The name Viotti is more well known than that of Marie-Hall. In fact, if you go Google Marie-Hall, you'll get the fantasy writer of romantic centaur and unicorn and pirate fame before the violinist. Unlike Viotti, whose picture pops right up with his rather exquisite hair. So, while they were both exceptional violinists, both 1709 Strads are more likely to be called the Viotti Strad in an attempt to gain a more prominent name. The other 1709 Strad, which should be called the Viotti-ex-Bruce, was said to be given to him as a lover's gift from Catherine the Great. I don't know how much truth there is in that, but it's a story for another time. The reason I'm bringing attention to this is, well, listen to what we're talking about in the video. What do you guys think?
Such an overload.
I know.
Yeah.
But
Compared to the other Strad.
I think this is a little bit more, I think it is mellower.
It's definitely mellower.
It's really hard to pick a favorite. And
I know.
It's almost impossible to really understand this right now. And it's only on the accordion that you can start to judge.
Yeah.
Because here every single one of them is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
It's
Even if they're
completely...
calm.
Yeah. I think it's what humanity comes down to.
None of what we're saying is untrue, and actually Ilya is bringing up some really meaningful points. But noticed how I haven't addressed the tone of the violin, other than that it is a more mellow instrument, a little softer to the touch. In fact, I haven't said much about it at all. So why is that? What was stopping me? This instrument is a Stradivarius. Frankly put, it's such a big name, everybody's mad about them, and I myself am a self-professed lover of Stradivari and both of those instruments that we reviewed before. But this one didn't speak to me in the same way, and I was embarrassed about it. I didn't want to show it. The expectation didn't hold up to the truth, and I didn't want to be the one to burst that bubble. To say, actually, this is a great instrument, but it's not doing it for me. This is actually one of the questions I get asked most frequently. Are Stradivari's really that good? There are a lot of arguments pro Stradivari, the wood, the unrivaled craftsmanship, and the popularity that began easily back in the 1700s when he was still crafting these instruments. But then there are many documented blind tests on Stradivari's and other old Italian masters versus more modern instruments. One of my old teachers, in fact, Ilya Koller, took part in one of these tests. They made him put on these welder's goggles so you couldn't see anything. And like the other violinists, Elmar Oliveira and Olivier Charlier, who also took the test, none of them were able to accurately identify the old Italian makers from the modern instruments. There's an interesting point that comes up as a result of this. Not only are Stradivari's that good, but also, are they worth it? The world record for a violin sale is the Lady Blunt Strad for 15.9 million, sold from the Nippon Music Foundation in 2011 to an anonymous donor, with all the proceeds going towards relief for the Tohoku tsunami and earthquake. Naturally, there was the charity aspect involved in this price, as the last record sale for a Strad had been around 3 million. There are also rumors that the Violin Guarneri, played by Anna Kiko Myers, exceeded 16 million, but that sum was never officially disclosed. And then there was the case of the MacDonald Strad, the viola which attempted in 2014 to make a record auction sale with a starting bid of 45 million. Do you remember that? There was this huge to-do about that. Who would buy this crazy expensive viola? And you know, I've done the research, and correct me if I'm wrong, I can't seem to find evidence that it was ever sold. As in, they're still trying to sell it. So apparently, somewhere between 16 and 45 million seems to be where that line is drawn. But the fact that modern instruments are massively cheaper, but still have an almost indistinguishable sound from old Italian makers, on a case-by-case basis, of course, is such a boon for students and other musicians. Yes, Itzhak Perlman purchased his own Strad, but that was in 1986 for £600,000, which is something like $790,000, and very different from all those millions. The record for a modern instrument was $132,000 in 2014. That's still very expensive, but it's feasible. A very mellow middle kind of sound to it. And then there's the idea of, well, aren't these instruments really works of art? Or does the art begin when the performer starts to play? When does that process start? Why do paintings routinely sell for so much more, where you can have a Da Vinci going for 450 million or a Gerhard Richter for 46 million? Why is the record price for a tuna, 3.1 million, the same as for a Guadagnini? What do these prices, the amount of money people are actually willing to pay for these things, what do they have anything to do with what they actually are? You can pay all you want for art or for violins or for sushi for that matter, but it doesn't actually mean you'll be able to appreciate its value. The truth is, all instruments are subjective. They speak to their player. And I thought this would be an interesting path to trace with this video because it just so struck me how all three of us, Ilya, Kenichi, and myself, were so nebulous with our appreciation. We were really sticking to these rather hazy vagaries. I want to emphasize, however, that it's not that I dislike this instrument. It's been in a vault for years now, and it probably hasn't been played regularly. It's mellow now and isn't very responsive, but it would probably come to life again, open up in the hands of a violinist who was able to give it the love that it deserves. But Compared to the other two Strads that I played in that collection, it was not nearly as open, as lovely, or as crystalline in its tone. I think it's clear that we are all expected to hold Stradivari as the holy grail of luthiers. And you know what? He is. But the point is that there are always others who are also in the canon of holy grail luthiers. People who have created instruments just as nuanced, just as beautiful, and just as worthy of praise. So let's decide going forward to think for ourselves when it comes to violins or to music or to anything that presents itself in life. I mean, that can't be so hard, right? I hope you enjoyed this video, and you know what? Join the conversation. What do you think about this violin? How does it compare to the other Strads that I reviewed before? Let us know in the comment section. Subscribe if you haven't already, and give us a like, and we'll see you next time. Cheers! Very mellow middle kind of sound to it.